Speaker recognizes Representative Singh.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to oppose Senate Bill 652. Over 10 months ago, we all stood here together and one by one took an oath. And part of that oath was to the Constitution of this state and to the United States Constitution as well. I'm concerned, as we take a look at Senate Bill 652, the constitutional implications of this very flawed bill. I'm used to having partisan politics in my life. I live here in East Lansing and have been involved over many years. So I don't get upset when there are partisan issues that you win. I'm upset when a bill is blatantly unconstitutional. Let's take a moment to pretend that this is not a political power grab and that it's actually a bill to transition the jurisdiction of the Court of Claims from the 30th Circuit to the Court of Appeals. If that was the case, and it was an innocent transition of jurisdiction, I imagine that we would not be rushing this in under 2 weeks. I imagine that we would not only have 2.5 hours of testimony. I would imagine a judge somewhere would have said, this is a good idea. I have not heard that from any level of the judiciary. If this was actually a good idea, I would imagine that this would have gone to the Judiciary Committee, where we take a look at the courts, where we take a look at the issues facing the state of Michigan. You didn't even do that. You had to send it to General Government Operations so you could jam it through at the last minute. You would have also approved an amendment if this was really about getting statewide voters and engaged in this process. One of the amendments we offered yesterday was to have these judges voted on a statewide level. The judges that we're passing this responsibility to are not elected on a statewide basis, they're on a regional basis. So if you really did care about the entire state voting on this, you would have allowed that amendment to go through and allowed the entire state to vote for every single one of those judges. If this was something you were serious about, you would have protected my county, Ingham County. Because you're rushing it through, because you're not allowing it to be implemented in a year or after a session, a budget that has already been approved is going to take a $500,000 hit. You don't even have the courtesy to have the appropriations to keep a county whole through this process. And as I mentioned, you would have taken a look at the constitutional questions. And let me just mention a few of them. And I'll read from our Constitution. The judicial power of the state is vested exclusively in one court of justice, which shall be divided into one Supreme Court, one Court of Appeals, one trial court of general jurisdiction known as a circuit court, one probate court, and courts of limited jurisdiction that the legislature may establish by a 2/3. Let me repeat that. By a 2/3 vote of the members elected and serving in each house. The Court of Claims in 2003, in a case called Parkwood Limited Dividend Housing Association versus the State of Housing Development Authority, our branch of housing, MSHDA, the Court of Claims was discovered to be a court of limited jurisdiction. And if it is a court of limited jurisdiction, that means you can't expand the services of this court the way you have done in this bill without 2/3 of a majority. Also, as was mentioned yesterday, our Constitution does not provide for amendment by reference, though that is what is happening in this bill. And also, you are taking away the civil rights of individuals to a jury trial. Many of the new claims that you have added to this has taken away the individual right for a jury trial. And I know many of us love to talk about our Constitution, but when you go back to your communities and you talk to your residents about how you might have limited their ability to go to a jury trial because of the expansion of the services that are here in this bill. And I wonder, I hope that every one of my colleagues, especially those that are going to be voting for this, has actually read every single word of this and understands the expansion that has happened here. Again, I go back to the constitutional issues within this bill. You had the opportunity with 13 of our amendments, many of those fixing your constitutional issues, but you did not do them. So in the end, I have to believe that this is all about politics, and it's not about getting the voice of the people. And that's a shame, because we've had governors, Governor Milliken, Governor Blanchard, Governor Engler, Governor Granholm, that have all gone through this process. But for some reason, we don't believe that that process is fit anymore. You could have fixed this in a variety of ways. But now you will have the Supreme Court, and by probably policy, the Chief Justice, choosing four individuals to decide this. Not four individuals who've been voted on by the entire state, but four individuals that have been part of a regional. So don't stand up here and say that this is about getting voters their rights, because this is about a blatant political grab and hiding things that are currently in this court. If you actually believe this to be not impacting things that are happening right now, not covering up things that are currently going through the Court of Claims, you would have listened to us and said, do not allow this to happen immediately. Do not allow these cases to go forward under new jurisdiction. That also creates another constitutional issue as well. And so, Mr. Speaker, I close today to say I'm disappointed in this body. I'm disappointed in the blatant partisan politics, and this is unacceptable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.